engage in this discussion many times offline. So it's actually a real treat for me to have such distinguished friends who can actually chat about this for the community. So the way we're going to work the discussion tonight is we're going to have an interactive panel discussion. We do have some questions that we want to go through and ask our panelists, but I really want to encourage our audience to please ask questions in the chat. And again, if you have a question that you would like a specific panelist to ask, please feel free to put that in the chat and we will get them to answer. So with that being said, let's jump right into our topics of clinical trials in minority populations. My first question is going to be for Roland. Roland, can you give the audience an overview of what a clinical trial is?
Sure, be happy to, Kim. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me, and I'm such honored to be on this panel with such an august body of panelists. And just briefly, clinical trials are research studies that are performed in people that test new ways to prevent, detect, or treat disease. And these interventions can might be new drugs or combination of new drugs. They might be surgical procedures, or they might be a new way of using existing treatments. Also, clinical trials, they also test other aspects of care, such as ways to improve quality of life for people with chronic illnesses. Oftentimes, clinical trials are also used to determine if a drug is safe and effective in people. And once we learn if it's the clinical trial is that way, we determine whether clinical trial is that new treatment is more effective or have less harmful side effects than the standard treatment.
Thank you, Roland. I wanted to, if I could ask another follow-on kind of question to that. Are all clinical trials ones that involve taking a medication?
No, they're not all involved. All clinical trials do not involve just taking medications. They're clinical trials that are used to determine if one type of surgery is better than another type of surgery. There's also quality of life clinical trials to see if the clinical trial interventions to see if we can improve a person's quality of life based on typically chronic illnesses such as diabetes or hypertension.
Thank you, Roland. So, Elisa, I'd like to ask you the next question, if I may.
Sure.
As an individual in the community, how do I find out about clinical trials?
Actually, thanks, Kim, for the question. There are various ways that you can find out about clinical trials and how to enroll. And actually, one of the ways, actually talking to your healthcare provider is a great way of finding out about clinical trials, because a lot of places, doctors know about trials that are getting ready to happen or what have you. So they're really a great resource as far as getting involved in a trial. As well, there are websites. There's clinicaltrials.gov is a great website. And there's also a website, researchmatch.org, which actually will match you to a clinical trial. Say if you're looking for a trial for hypertension or a trial that may be looking for patients with lupus, they will actually match you to a trial. So that's one great way of getting involved in a trial. Others are support groups. A lot of support groups for various diseases will have access to clinical trials. Also, even just being watching TV, I have seen watch shows in the afternoons or any time of the day where they'll have a commercial where they're looking for patients for certain studies. And a lot of these studies will actually pay for patients to pay for transportation and give them some stipend. So there's various ways.
Thank you, Elisa, for that answer to that question. Gwen, I am going to go to you next. And what I would like, if you could answer for the audience, would be when it comes to risk as it pertains to clinical trials, what are some that may be encountered?
Well, with anything, there is risk. So there may be risk related to the medication you take. There may be side effects. It could be as simple as nausea, vomit, or headaches, but it could even be even more severe, maybe even liver damage. But when you participate in those studies, they have to disclose the risks that you will face when you participate in a study. So you don't get in a study blind and don't understand what the risk factors are. Each facility, doctor's office, or wherever they're hosting the clinical trial, they have to go through an internal review board or ethics committee before they even present the trial, the clinical trial. So all of that information has to be disclosed. Then they have several mechanisms in place to help protect patients to ensure that there's no real serious harm to patients. But as you know, when you participate in studies, things do happen, and sometimes side effects and serious things can happen in studies.
Kim, can I say something, Kim?
Absolutely. Please.
So I totally agree with that, Gwen, and I just want to add on. One of the things I think is really important if you're going to engage in a clinical trial is that when they're going through this ethics, when you come to the clinical trial center or the site where they're conducting the clinical trial, before you even start to engage in that, you need to get all your questions answered. It's important. There's no stupid question. There's no dumb question. Get everything you want answered. If you don't feel comfortable, then you shouldn't move forward with it. But they can't force you to do it. But the place, the key indicators that I've seen is that when the people that are administering the trial are patient and they're ready to answer all of your questions, because they can't coerce you by law to do this. But I think it's important. There are some risks, and they should go over those risks and benefits with you.
Absolutely. And if it's okay, if I can add a little bit to that, Kim. And as a former trials nurse, one of the things that we in all trials have this, that you have to sign informed consent. Yep. And when going through that informed consent, it really lists everything as far as what your options are, what the study design entails, side effects, and it also at any time while you're on trial, you have that right to withdraw. So I remember sitting with patients, some patients going through informed consent taking a couple hours, because I wanted to make sure that the patients fully understand what they were signing up for. So just to add to what you guys were saying.
Thank you for that additional information about the risks with clinical trials. I think that's something important for our audience members to understand, because I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people don't want to enroll in trials, because there are risks associated with it, but it always helps if you understand them very thoroughly going into the process. Roland, if I could go back for you to the next question. Can I be compensated if I decide to participate in a clinical trial?
I'm unaware of any clinical trial that do not compensate you. I'm unaware of any trial that do not. I've been around a number of them. I'm not aware of any that do not compensate you. And I think Alyssa said it earlier that, the compensation that you should be getting compensated for your time. And then if it's there any barriers to you making it to and from the center, you should be compensated for those. So for instance, if you have issues with transportation, they should provide transportation for you to get there. And it just depends on what type of trial it is. You may end up getting some snacks at the end based on what they had to do in the trial. But yes, and it depends on the trial. You may get compensated at different points in the trial as well. It just depends on the design of the trial. But I'm not aware of any. And Gwen and Alyssa, are y'all aware of any trial that hasn't been compensated?
No.
Right.
And in some form they are. And usually when and Gwen, you brought that up earlier about the IRBs, the institutional review boards, when they're setting up the contracts for the trials, a lot of that is added into the cost is compensation. So they are.
And IRB will ask you about it if it's not there, because they typically have an ethicist on the board that really dials into that and raises that issue if it's not. But many seasoned clinical trialists already know And so they make sure the compensation is appropriate to what the study design is and the follow-up on what's done.
And I can speak from personal experience. I did participate in a clinical trial. It was not for medication. It was actually observational. And I was actually compensated in cash for each visit that I made. And I will say I was compensated nicely.
Kim, I have a question in the chat from a participant, and I think her name is Ashley Dorsey. Ashley wants to know, Gwen, doesn't HIPAA laws protect you as well as the IRB? The HIPAA laws protects your medical information. That's what it protects. So that is in regards to sharing any of your medical information that is protected, okay?
We have another question in the chat. Why is it that minorities don't normally participate in these clinical studies? Okay.
Gwen, would you like to answer that?
Yes. Yes, we don't participate in clinical trials for a number of reasons. The first one is fear. First and foremost, is fear because of our past. And nothing has been done to calm the fears in the African American community as it relates to testing that occurs in the African American community. And so I think we have to begin to have the conversations of what is it going to take for us to overcome that fear. Number one is to become educated about clinical trials and what they entail. The more education you have, the more power you have. Secondarily, if we don't participate in these clinical trials, we will never have medications and treatments that actually work for us. Most of the medications and the treatments that we endure have been tested on other people, not African American people. Enough of us do not participate in the studies to generate outcomes that will determine how drugs and how different treatments will react with African Americans. So we need more of us to do that so that we can begin to have medications that actually react to our DNA and our makeup. So we have to get over that fear. It's not denouncing the fear is real, but there are mechanisms in place. As we spoke about, the IRB, the Ethics Review Board, asking all the questions, becoming educated, and whenever you don't feel comfortable, walk away. They can't force you. But we really, really, really need to bend this curve because our communities are so unhealthy. And we're taking medications that were not made for us. And in order for us to get medications that are for our people, we need to participate in these studies. Alyssa, I see you nodding. You want to
No,
add?
I guess I am fully on board with you, what you're saying, Gwen. I was just looking at an article, and this was actually data from 2015, which hasn't changed very much. And it said and this is talking about oncology treatments. And of the 24 of the 31 approved cancer treatments in 2015, on those trials, only less than 5% of those patients in trial were African American.
And
So
it's so sad because we complain so much. But if we don't have a plan about what we're going to do, why are we complaining? We complain so much about what's not here for us and what we don't have access to, but we don't sign up to participate in those things that will actually help us bend this curve and make a change. So we have to get over this fear, and we have to say faith over fear. We are a God-fearing community. Why are we so fearful of man when we are God-fearing in nature, our people in general? We rely on our faith heavily, but not when it comes to things like this.
So can I ask this question? Because what I get a lot from people is, well, what about Tuskegee? So maybe Roland, you could speak to that for a minute in terms of how do we move past that so we can get to the place where we're participating more?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that, but I want to talk about something that Gwen said earlier. I want to add on something because I think it's important. So I'm gonna get to you. If I don't answer it, circle back before we get off the phone. Zoom. I agree with Gwen and Alyssa 1,000%, but I want to flip it on the other side, Gwen. We ain't in this thing by ourselves. And yes, I said ain't in this thing by ourselves. The healthcare system has some blame to do with it also. It's not welcoming. It's not welcoming when you go in there. And when you go in there, sometimes they act like it's bothersome for you to be there. right, to go to the doctor's office, right? And so I think that's a bigger piece. But I think the larger piece, you're right, is that a lot of it is us. But when we get to the healthcare system, then the healthcare system needs to at least be more welcoming to to different groups of people. I also think that one of the other things why we don't participate in trials is, and I think one of you already said, is that it's a lack of education. And quit going down to the beauty shop and the barber shop listening to what folks talking about. Them the folks that 99% of them are telling you it just cocked information. They may have had it right when they left somewhere, but by the time they got to the beauty shop and barber shop, it's just like when you tell somebody you're in a line of 6 people, you whisper something in that person's ear. When it get down to the end, it's not what you said.
So
It's the
true.
same thing.
Right.
I could go to the barber shop and say, hey, clinical trials, you need to get this clinical trial. It's a great clinical trial. When you get to the barber shop, I can walk in, the guy said it probably said, don't go to that clinical trial, give you rickets. And that's all it takes in an environment like that, right? And it sends people in spirals, right? The other thing, one of the biggest things I think that we have an issue with is that this notion of misinformation that is spread, and we have to be able to know where the sources of information reside. And one of the big places where the sources of information reside, CDC information on CDC.gov is vetted. So you won't get any misinformation now. And now that we're under new administration, maybe the appropriate information will be released in a timely fashion. So there, NIH.gov, and then a lot of these foundations and health insurance companies have pretty reliable information. And I think that's important for people to understand, is educating ourselves and be okay to call your friend and say, you don't know, help me understand this, right? Because not participating in the clinical trial, if you need it, think about what the alternative is. Get your life together, because you could die,
Yep.
right? If you need it and it is not there. Now, as it relates to Tuskegee, a couple years ago when I initiated this, well, more than a couple years ago, about 9 years ago when I had this idea of doing this Black men's health study, I went around the country just talking to Black men, different age groups. And I was expecting to get Tuskegee a long way each way down the road, but only when I got to the South is when it became prevalent, right? And people ask about it because it's still down there. This whole thing, and I think what you have to do, Tuskegee, is a excuse me, excuse me, Tuskegee. Well, let me call it what it actually is. It is the United States Public Health Service syphilis study at Tuskegee, and we should move forward, and we should always call it that as so that we can continue to remove the stigma that was laid on the city of Tuskegee starting in 1932. So Tuskegee's Tuskegee, the first name of it was Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male, and so this was a study. This was actually a clinical trial, right? Well, no, it wasn't a clinical trial. It was an observational study. I'm sorry. What they wanted to do is they wanted to involve, I think, about 600 men, and they wanted, I think, 600 men. I think it was close to four. I think it was 400 had syphilis and 200 did not have syphilis, and they wanted to follow these men over time to understand the progression of syphilis. And what went wrong was that when a treatment became available, they didn't give the men with syphilis the treatment, and the other part of the study that went wrong, the men never never were giving informed consent. And that's what I think Gwen and Alyssa was talking about earlier, this notion of informed consent. So they didn't know the risk and the benefits. They were told something, but they never were properly informed and properly conducted informed consent. And the study was supposed to take place over 6 months, and then the official halt of the study finally happened in 1972. And then I think Bill Clinton, was the first president to make the formal apology back to the families. And then there was some survivor benefits for those families. And I think there's about 2 or 3 people that are still left that are receiving the survivor benefits from that horrendous experiment. So that's what that is. And So just for the record, let's be clear, because I hear this all the time. It's not only is it that white men were down there doing it, a black woman was doing it, Nurse Rivers, black doctors was also doing it. Because I hear several different types of stories. There was all black and white people involved on the medical side as well. So, but I think the important piece is to understand what it was, acknowledge it, and then you have to build a relationship with the people that you're trying to get enrolled in these different types of studies. So you have to acknowledge it. It happened. And then you have to have an answer for, how do I know this not going to happen again? And you got to have that answer immediately, because you're sitting across from somebody that you either want to enroll in your study, and it's a 50-50 chance that they're going to get up and walk out on that. And I think what I've learned to do and what's been successful for me is acknowledge it, talk to them about it, answer every question they have about it. And then when they're comfortable, move forward. And then you just make the ask to try to enroll them. And either they're going to enroll in that point, or they may leave and they may come back.
Roland, I want to say something to what you said in the beginning about being comfortable in the healthcare space. I want everyone on this call to understand one thing. You are not just a patient, you are a consumer, and your dollar spends. If you are not happy with the healthcare services you are receiving at a facility, leave and take your insurance card with your healthcare money someplace else and get the services you deserve. You do not have to take bad treatment. You do not have, you are a consumer. We need you to be satisfied with the services we provide. We are evaluated and paid based on how we treat you. Your experience in our facility with our physicians, with our nurses, with our techs, with our diagnostic studies, everything we do, we're evaluated, and our reimbursement is attached to how well we care for you. So if you are not being cared for properly, the next time you go in there, let them know your Medicare dollar, your commercial insurance dollar, your Medicaid dollar, it spends someplace else. You can take it any place else. You are a consumer. Become empowered and get the care you deserve, period.
And take ownership of your health, just like you take ownership of kicking it, just like you take ownership of going to work, just like you take ownership going to church. Take ownership of your health, right?
Yes.
We Google every other thing we want to Google. And then all of a sudden,
Right.
when it comes to your health, you can't type. Your fingers hurt. Your knuckles
Right.
crunched up. But we for anything else we want to do, we do it. And if you don't know, call people, and people can. And it's funny. My sister texted me yesterday, and she told me her medical report. And I'm the younger of the two. I'm not trying to hear all that stuff that's going on with her, but I listen because I know why she called. I know why she texts me, because she's scared. And instead of just saying to her little brother that she's scared, she's going to give me all this other stuff. So I responded. I said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do this. And the day she calls me and be like, I'm still mad at you. But I'm okay with that as long as she does the other stuff, right? But I mean, you just have to find ways to connect. And for the brothers out there, I'll just say this to you. A couple things. If you don't go get your colonoscopy, you can get up out of here. That'll get you up out of here quick.
Real quick.
Real quick. You don't get your test for the PSA, that can get you out of here real quick. Because if you got running around with prostate cancer and it metastasized to the hip and your pelvis fall out of you, and then your spine go drop to the floor, then what you gonna do? You're dead. I mean, you're done. You're done. I mean, so we got to stop this. I'm not gonna do these things, right? And we have to do it, because I'm talking to the brothers now, because we need to continue to be strong and stand beside the strong Black women in our society.
Well, let me just say this, women, you all have the power to make sure your man is taken care of. Don't forget that you got the power. When you're laying down, when you're talking, whispering in their ear, giving them coupons for extra favors for what they gonna do. Go see the doctor, go get your, self-checked out. We have the power. Women control a lot when it comes to healthcare in our community. So don't forget to leverage your power in your family and make sure your family is taken care of.
Oh, I make appointments.
Yes.
don't even discuss it. You just make the appointment.
I just make an appointment. You know what? It's not even up for discussion. We just
Yes.
just the appointment. And if I got to drive you there, I'll
The
drive.
women control the healthcare, no doubt
Yes,
about
we
it.
do.
So it's interesting you say that, Gwen. It's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
So when I talk to the brothers in the South, the married brothers in the South, I was like, so why y'all don't go to the doctor? Why you don't take your wife to the doctor? I'm not taking her because she's bothered me all day. That's just some new information for her to bother me about. But guess who could take him to the doctor though, which was interesting. The daughter could take him.
The one,
So then I go back and I talk to the daughter and I say, do you take, yeah, oh yeah, you go. But now he takes her, at least this scenario, he takes her because he tells her she can't go in the back. Well, the wife going in the back and hear exactly what the doctor said. Ain't no telling what the doctor said. And he done came out talking about, oh yeah, we good. We ain't got to worry about that. And on the way home, he's thinking about how he gonna lay this out to the wife, right?
Yeah.
So it is, and Gwen, all jokes aside, men prioritize their health differently from women, right? And so I think having that soulmate or that partner there to give you that extra push is very, very important to do so. And people, I think that, and as much as going to the doctor, the clinical trial is the same thing. To participate in the clinical trial, I think it needs to be an informed decision and a group decision if there's a partner involved, because like Gwen said earlier, there could be some there certainly could be some risk, or there are going to be risk, and you just want to make sure that the decision was formed.
And actually, Roland, if I could add on to something that you said, and a lot of patients that when I would enroll them or talk to them about trials, there were several times when we had follow-up, because I would ask them to bring their significant others with them, because a lot of times, especially in the oncology world, they don't hear, or they hear cancer and that's all they hear, and they don't really comprehend anything else. So I always encourage them to bring someone with them to help them understand. And also another point too, I would like to see more of us involved in clinical trials, as far as getting as clinicians getting involved in clinical trials, because a lot of times in the facility where I worked, when I would speak with another African, they felt comfortable talking to me. And if I was the person who was going to be following them on the trial, and they said, well, where are people like you? So we need more of us to be represent. So
more of them needs to take place in our communities too. A lot of them take place in communities that are not our communities. And so,
correct.
You know, at the facility where I currently work at Trinity, we're looking at bringing some clinical trials to our facility, because we have staff and people that look like us, right? And we want to advance and move this needle in this area to ensure that we're now getting the medications and treatments we deserve, because they've been tested on us and they actually work for us. So, you know, we need a lot more people that look like us in this space.
We have actually a lot of questions in the chat. I'm going to start backwards. I think we've answered a few of them actually, so that's okay. But I do want to go back to this one that was asked. It indicates the story of Henrietta Lacks has also created distrust with the healthcare profession. What happens to blood samples and other materials that are collected during clinical trials? And can you request that all remaining or unused study samples be discarded? Or is it the property of the research team?
It depends on the study, and they typically disclose that when they give you the consent and the information about the study. So every study is not the same. What they keep or what they discard, you know, it's different. We have biohazardous places where we discard biohazard materials, and those are actually discarded. We do not keep those. But if that study says, hey, I'm going to keep something for a biopsy or whatever the case may be, it's disclosed to you and you know exactly.
During the consent process.
Yes.
During the consent process. Yep.
All right. I have another question for you. Elisa, you might be able to answer this one. What percentage of minority participation is needed to ensure that our health and our voice and that our information makes it into a clinical trial?
That's a really good question. And I think that also varies with the studies. as far as how many patients or percentage of actual patients needed, I would say I mean, in a dream world, I would love to see 50% participation, but that really depends on the number of people that are on trial. I would, just a ballpark. I'm thinking of a couple of studies where I've seen where like really good result. I've seen 30-40% of patients, but that's really, really difficult. But it just really depends on the trial itself to really gauge the number. But I mean, a perfect world, I would love to see at least half.
Every trial has a sample size, and you'll see in the
Right.
studies, if you see written articles, it'll say the letter N, and N
Mhm.
represents the number of
Yep.
people that are actually in the study, the sample size. So every study, when they start, they have a sample size that they want to target. And so what Elisa is saying is, if we can get 30%, that would be great, because right now we don't see that. But in a
No.
perfect world, yes, we would love to see 50+% of minorities participate in that sample size in order to know that this medication or this treatment will truly be effective for our people.
The next question I have, so we have talked about the risks and the fact that you need to make sure you go through the consent process and understand everything that is going on with the trial. But we do have a question, and they're asking, are there any risks that may not be so obvious when it comes to participating in a clinical trial?
All of the risks have to be disclosed, Kim, so I can't say that it wouldn't be so obvious. If they don't disclose it, they are liable, and that's a big lawsuit, right? And we live in a very litigious society. People will sue at a drop of a dime. And
Right.
healthcare facilities that host these studies are very cognizant of that. So they want to disclose to you, and they want to build trust because they want us to participate. You don't understand how bad they want us to participate. I mean, literally.
Right.
They are begging for minorities to participate in this study. I mean, every time you turn around, you're getting a call, an email. Do you know anybody? When you work in this space, everybody want to know, do you know people? Can you help us? They have consultants around the world trying to help them get minorities enrolled into these studies. So they don't want to not disclose it. Whatever risk that they are aware of, based on the information they have to disclose it.
Yep.
Eli Lilly is not gonna mess around and not put something on a sheet of paper so
Nope.
somebody can come get that loot. They're not gonna do that.
No.
Not at
Don't
all.
do it.
That's Eli Lilly not gonna do that.
Absolutely.
AstraZeneca not gonna do that.
Pfizer
J&J
ain't
not
gonna
gonna do
do
it.
it.
Right.
Nope.
They're not gonna do it. And that's and also those are protocols. When a clinical trial takes place, they have to have a clinical trial protocol, and it has to be logged in on clinicaltrials.gov at NIH site. And then one of the things there are the side effects, right? And so, and that's the public domain. You can go there and pull up trials and look at the information. So, they will have to disclose all those side effects all the risk, including side effects that are known. And you know that up front before you even start. Someone sitting there consenting you.
Right. And they also, trials are audited while the trials are going on.
Yep.
So that's one thing that is a safeguard, because they will, and I remember having to make sure that all the data was intact, because when those auditors came in, they combed through everything. They even would go to the pharmacy to look at where drug was stored.
Correct.
So there is auditing that's done periodically through a trial. And if they see something that maybe is something that they weren't expecting side effect wise, that's how trials are halted. Yep. You'll hear, even with the AstraZeneca vaccine trial, it was put on a halt because there was a side effect that happened with the patient. So they have to go through that and look through that. So yes, so trials are audited.
And they have a data monitoring safety board that trials that are going on, and they meet regularly with the investigative team, and then they look at this information, right? And they determine whether the study goes forward, it stops, and then there's an auditing team. So there's levels of just levels and levels of engagement when these trials occur. I know oftentimes we don't think about those because those are the things that are extraneous to the trial itself, but there's a lot of levels of protection that are put in place. But if you ask at the enrollment time, the person should tell you that if you ask the question.
So one question that we had, and Roland, this one was for you. Are participants ever given the results of the trial that they participated in at the end of the study?
Yes, you can get them at the end of the study. Yes, but not during the study because particularly if it typically is blinded, nobody knows who's in what group. And so, but at the end of the study, typically they send the result. They send a summarization of the results, so you don't get everybody. Remember the question about HIPAA earlier in IRB? You don't get individuals, so you wouldn't get a sheet with Kim, Alyssa, Gwen, and Roland information. You'll get something that says there were 140 people in the trial. The average blood pressure was this, average weight was this, and blah blah blah. And so it's at an aggregate level, so you can't identify any individual characteristics. And so it depends on what type of trial you're in. Also, if they find out something along the way is wrong with you, they're required to report it to you. And also IRB typically sets it up for you to have some resources available for those individuals.
So speaking of the IRB, we actually had a question about what is the IRB?
IRB is the Institutional Review Board. Those are the gangsters.
Yes.
those are the gatekeepers. Actually, they're the gatekeepers.
Gangsters.
Yes.
They're the gatekeepers of the sign. No, they're the gatekeepers of the sign.
That process
It's a tough process.
I've been through that process, and I had to go through it twice. So when you submit your study of what you want to do and all that it entails, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes.
They're responsible for making sure that there is no harm to individuals that participate in the study. So they are the people who sign their name off and say, hey, we agree, this study is not going to cause any harm. If they think it's going to cause any harm, your study will not move forward, period.
And it's made up of different, like physicians are on the IRB, you have lay people that are on the IRB.
Correct.
So there's various eyes that are also looking at that. And gangster is a great way of describing it.
Gangster.
It's
They
real.
with it.
It's real.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So one person from the chat asked, what can we as community members do about having more trials at facilities that are in neighborhoods that we live in, instead of having to go out of the way to participate in a trial?
Request it. When you're there and you're talking to your doctor or you're in your local community setting, say, hey, we would like to see clinical trials here. They may want to offer it, but they may be scared that the community won't participate, just like we won't go get the vaccine. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Things are available. I ain't gonna go there, but things are available. And we won't do it, so a lot of times they won't bring it to our communities directly because they know that the participation is not there. And if we want to see things in our community, we got to ask. Hungry mouths get fed.
And there's a lot of also, go ahead, Roland, I'm sorry.
No, please, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, and I know that a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are looking at initiatives and bringing more African Americans, actually people of color, onto clinical trials, but I agree exactly with what you said, Gwen. We have to make noise. We got to make noise and say that we want this, and that's how it happens.
So ladies, we got to make noise, but we got to also show up after we make all that noise.
Yeah,
come on down here. Come on down here. And then next thing you know, they die here. Where everybody at? They at the barbershop talking about that misinformation. They at the beauty shop talking about that. Y'all heard Serena getting ready to retire. They talk about that craziness. So when you bring it, you got to make sure you have a backup, right? And that's the important piece. I'm 100 with bringing it to the community. And I think that we're moving in wintertime in a space in America where we don't have any other choice but to learn how to engage people of color. Because by 2050, we're going to be a nation where the minorities outnumber the majorities. And then our health status is going to start to reflect that of the minorities. So we need to have a health system in place that can handle handle the health and well-being of people of color and be able to address this in an appropriate manner. But we also, on the flip side, we got to get off our tail and engage as well and do our part.
Yes, we do.
So I have another question from the chat, and just so you know, the comments in the chat have been amazing, and people are texting me. Dr. Roland, I think you got a fan club out there, just so you know. The question is, if you are in a clinical trial, and this specifically would be a medication clinical trial, and you are in the placebo group, after the trial is over, do you automatically get eligible to receive the drug, or do you have to wait for the drug to go through the whole approval process with the FDA before you can get the drug?
You do not. When you are in that placebo group, you don't even know you're in the placebo group.
No.
Right.
Let's be clear.
Right.
There is no way for you to even know that you're getting placebo.
Right.
So you will not get that drug until it comes to market. It is not approved by the FDA. They are not allowed to give it to you, but you never know you're in the placebo group anyway.
Right. They usually do not unblind that until after the trial is over. And then what they call commercial drugs. So when it becomes approved, then you can get it that way. Because usually I remember, like, when we would give it out to patients, we would just get bottles and they would just have the study number on it. And we had no idea if it was drug or if it was the actual drug or placebo. So.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my questions for a second, and then then we'll come back and answer some more questions from the chat, because there is one question that I think is important for the audience to understand. So when we don't participate, when the minority community does not participate in clinical trials, how does that affect not only when these drugs are approved, access to them, does it perhaps maybe, and how does that just really affect the usage of the drug and continued data that we get from the drugs as they've been in the market for a couple of years?
Kim, ask that question again.
Yeah.
So Kim, ask that question again.
So the first part of the question is,
quit being academic. Just ask it like you're on the streets.
So let me ask it like I'm on the street.
Right.
When we don't participate in clinical trials,
how
does that affect these drugs that are put on the market in terms of us?
You know what?
Look, we gonna still buy the drugs, y'all. They ain't for us, but we still buy them. So Tylenol, Advil,
it's still
penicillin, so.
Yeah, but I don't think it doesn't. To answer your question, Kim, the drugs aren't affected. No. We're the ones on the end that's been affected, because we're not, just like what Gwen said earlier, when we're not in the studies, then the findings that come out of that are really generalizable to the people who were in the clinical trial, right? And so then, but what happens is when you go to the doctor and you sitting across from the doctor and your blood pressure high, and the doctor trying to figure out whether he gonna give you ACTZ or he gonna give you a beta blocker, it don't matter to him, because you wasn't in the trial, and we don't really have information to better guide them to make an evidence-based decision on their practice. That's why it's really important to do these types of things, right? And these clinical trials, at the end of the day, what these clinical trials do for us, they help us develop new policies that can meet the needs of our populations, right? Because a lot of these health policies that exist now are out there, but they're really not, the information, the evidence base that they're gleaning are not from us.
And let's be clear, because I saw something in the chat and I want to make sure that I address it about social determinants of health. We can talk about hospital care and clinical care. When you go into the hospital, especially in our communities, only 20% of the problem is clinical. The other 80% is social determinants of health. Access to food, access to housing and shelter, good jobs, our mental health, being in an abusive relationship. All of those things impact our healthcare. And we do have to start to address those things. And institutions understand that now that they're being reimbursed on value-based
Correct.
healthcare. They understand now that they have to put things in place to help the people that they serve so that they can get better outcomes. So they are starting to bend that curve and address those things that need to be addressed in order to make sure that you are holistically, the whole you is taken care of.
You know, it was just, I was thinking about, as we're talking about that, a conversation that I had with a physician and with the drug that I happen to promote. And one of the questions that she asked, and I never had a doctor ask me, she said, how many African-American women were on the trial?
Right.
I was like, okay, you know, I gave her the number. In a subsequent conversation, I, you know, kind of asked, and she said, you know what, that's my population. That's primarily what I see. And I want to be able to tell them that this drug was used, this drug was studied on patients that were just like you. And I was, you know, I was glad to see that she had that concern, because a lot of physicians don't. They don't ask those kind of questions, or they could care less about that. But the fact that she was concerned about that and is talking about wanting to do trials and wanting to highlight trials with African-American women only, I think it's just amazing that she wants to do that. But to your, you know, just kind of adding on to what you were saying about that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat. We have another question. Is the NDA typically part of the process for clinical trials? I'm wondering if they meant is the FDA.
I think they meant maybe a non-disclosure agreement.
Could be.
So you, when you're participating in these studies, you sign a consent, but your information is protected by HIPAA. It's protected by law. So no, you do not have to sign an NDA.
Okay.
And the FDA is, I
Yes.
mean, they're involved.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm getting ready to hit the hot topic question, COVID-19. Let's just get into it. Given where COVID-19 numbers are currently, do you think it's unethical to still have trials with a placebo?
No. No.
No.
All right, I think I have another COVID question. Are people still being followed for after effects who were in the original COVID-19 vaccine trials?
I'm sure they are.
Probably are.
I'm sure that they are.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And
In
maybe
most trials, they do.
Most trials last years. They don't last
Yes.
a few months. I mean, they could be 10 and 20 years long. So
And they follow them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
These vaccines are too new for them to say, we just gonna put them out there and that's the end of it. We done following people. No.
Well,
Right.
in addition, we put them out there and we went through some different, we used a different approach because we were in a pandemic than
Right.
the follow. Right. So, yeah.
All right, I think I've got the questions from the chat.
Let
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, Kim, I was gonna say a lot of people want to know, how did they create this vaccine so fast? You know,
Yeah,
the vaccine was created so fast. They already
I
had
had to battle the Facebook epidemiologists on this.
Oh boy.
They know a lot.
You know, what's so funny is that we understand how fast technology has advanced. We used to warm our food in the oven, wrap it up in aluminum foil, wait 30 minutes until we eat it, right? Now you put it in there for 2-3 minutes and you can eat fast. That same technology is in healthcare. That same advancement has occurred. They already had a template. There were a couple of diseases that had already taken place around the world where they were able to create like a key lock type of vaccine creation.
Right.
I'm trying to keep it in simple terms to normal people, but they had a template already. And coronavirus is not new.
Not new
at all.
This COVID-19 strain is new, but the coronavirus is not new. So they were already familiar with the virus. So they already understood how it worked, the DNA of the virus. And so that's how they were really able to create this vaccine fast, quicker. And then they got emergency use authorization to bring it to market faster than they typically would. And so
go ahead, Gwen.
So, I just want people to be clear. We question this vaccine, but you ain't never questioned that chickenpox vaccine. You never question the polio vaccine.
What's in Flaming Hot Cheetos?
Yeah, Flaming Hots or McDonald's, putting it in your mouth and eating the McDonald's. But yet we question a vaccine that's actually going to save our lives. We are in the midst of a global pandemic, guys. This is not just affecting African-American people. This is a global pandemic around the world. If we do not step up and do something, it's only going to spiral more out of control. If you're not going to take this vaccine, what is your plan B? I'm asking our community, if we're not going to step up, because you don't take the vaccine just for you, you take it for everyone, for the community, to help protect the community. If we don't want to take the vaccine, what is our plan B? Kids are being left without parents because of COVID-19. They are becoming homeless and orphans. People are losing their jobs, their houses, their lives. Community, if we're not going to take this vaccine, please put in the chat, tell me what your plan B is. I want to know. Y'all spread all the gossip, get on social media, talk all the hype, all these people with money talking about, yeah, don't take the vaccine, but ain't none of them going to come to your rescue when you can't pay your bill because you've been in a hospital for 6 months. When we go to the hospital with COVID-19, 58% of our people die.
Well, Gwen, that's if you can get a bed in the hospital.
That's if you can get a bed.
That's if you can get a bed in the hospital.
And I was telling them how our morgues fill up and we don't even have room for bodies in the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is not a game. This is not a game. They did not create a vaccine where they're trying to kill Black people either. Please believe me, because they gave it to ICU nurses first. And if you work in any hospitals or anybody on this call or this video chat that works in a hospital, 95% of the nurses on the ICU are what? White. Even in our communities. So if they would give it to them first, what would make you think the people that they got charged with taking care of us, if we get sick enough to be in the ICU or on the COVID unit in a hospital, that they would give it to them first? And now they're going to give it to us and just kill us. It's crazy.
In the chat, I have someone who's saying that the plan B, well, there was a plan B, and the plan C is to continue to wear masks, practice good hygiene, and to keep your immune system up.
Okay, and good luck, because let me tell you this. Do you know that the COVID virus can get in through your eyeballs because you have a mucous membrane? Yep. So wear a mask. Be my guest. But if you can talk to tons of people who have had COVID, and they can tell you this. They stayed safe. They washed their hands. They didn't go out the house. They had groceries delivered. And guess what? They still got it.
Still got it, yep.
So we can try that, but it's not the best method. You don't hear on the TV, they're not telling you all your mucous membranes, your nose, your mouth, all your eyes got mucous membranes too, and we are doing nothing to protect them.
Right. What somebody's saying, face shield.
Okay. And does that face shield protect all the sides? Those face shields you see people wearing, those sides is open. You think that virus can't go through that? That's not doing it. It's not doing it. Next.
All right. Next question. What are some specific things that you think can be done to raise the awareness in the community of participating in clinical trials? So this workshop is a first step. What are some other things that can be done to help raise that awareness?
We got to go where people are.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. We have to go to the churches. I mean, we have to go to the barbershops and the beauty shops. We have to go where our people are and raise that awareness of
Don't forget the church.
trials. And the church, thank you. Sorry about that.
Church.
Yes, the church. We have to do that. We have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
In order to get that message out.
Yeah. I've had the vaccine. I saw a person.
Yeah, somebody wants to know if everybody on the panel and the moderators have been vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated.
Yeah, I am.
Not yet.
No,
I'm waiting my turn.
Yeah, I'm not fully vaccinated because I had to get my second dose of my shingle shot. Now I'm in my 14-day waiting period, but February 28th, they going in this left arm. Let's get it.
You know
And
what? I'm in your same boat because I have
Yeah.
my shingle shot as well.
Yeah,
So
I had my
just had
second
number 2.
dose.
Stop
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
y'all age. Stop telling y'all age. No.
Hey, look, they
Hey,
want
I'm
to,
old.
no, they want to know, Gwen.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm
Now,
in that group too. I'm in that group too.
now
But
here's the
also
question.
understand that there is criteria for giving the vaccine, and you have to meet the criteria. Right now,
Right.
CDC is advising that we serve those that meet the 1B criteria. That's individuals over the age of 65, those
Yep.
with severe chronic conditions, and health essential workers.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing I want to encourage as well in talking about the vaccine, if there are people that are here listening this evening that have autoimmune disorders, I'm a
Yeah.
person who lives with lupus. And I know that I'm going to be one getting the vaccine. And please, if anybody has it, if I can just beg, if you have get it. Just get it. That's my one soapbox. If you're living with an autoimmune disease, there is no excuse. You should get it. You should get the vaccine.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the chat and see. Here's the latest question. Can we discuss the shortage of the vaccine?
Yes, we don't control it.
Nope.
It has to be created. You guys have to understand this is a huge undertaking because they're not just creating it for America. They are creating it for the world.
Right.
So
And
this vaccine has to be sent all over the world. So,
this is
you know,
supply chain 101.
Yes.
And so, so this is a subject that I happen to talk about at work, as part of what I do, but it's really supply chain 101. Yes,
Mhm.
they can only manufacture so much at a time, and
Correct.
then it's got to get distributed.
Yes.
Right.
And now what happened is the process of actually getting people to register for shots and all this online business. Most places weren't ready to handle that. You know, there's people registering people via Eventbrite to get a
Right.
shot, which should let you know that a lot of the health systems, they were not ready for the influx of people in terms of planning and being able to schedule and track getting
Right.
the vaccine.
And our seniors are not technology savvy. And today, even our hospital, Advocate Aurora Health, love them dearly, love them to death, love y'all, but they got it wrong. Trying to get our patients registered on their app. Our seniors are not ready for that technology. They do not know how. We have to pick up the phone and call. It should be as easy as them being able to call at their doctor's office and get an appointment and let somebody at the doctor's office get them scheduled for the vaccine. So we're trying to work through that because they think technology is always the quickest way. And it does work with our younger folks, but not with our seniors. And I love my seniors.
Or the places where technology starts to wane, like rural areas.
Yes.
Right. You go to deep rural Alabama, right? The South Georgia, right before you get over the Florida state, Georgia, Florida line. They ain't running no Xfinity out there. They probably still running some doggone yarn and 2 green bean empty cans together. They're not, but people they don't think like that. Those are the people that you got to reach, right?
That's true.
And it's important. We have to think about that.
Yeah.
You know, and how do we reach them? There ain't nobody, and then nobody know how to log on to no computer. Last computer they might have was a Commodore VIC 64. Nah, Gwen, I'm showing my age. Are you ready? Are you ready, then, Gwen?
No.
You a nut.
No, you're right.
So somebody asked in the chat, can you touch base on all the benefits that come with enrolling in clinical trials to help educate the audience?
Well, I guess the one benefit that I would say is it will inspire other people to do it. Once one of us start to do it, and they see that it actually can make a change in our community, it will help them. It's also going to help with the medications that we take, how the medications will react in our body, and the treatments that we get, how our bodies will respond to those treatments. So those for me are the top 3 benefits of it. We need to start saving our community and saving our lives. And it's hard to do that when the treatments don't fit us. It don't fit. It's like trying to put a square piece in a circle. It doesn't work.
Absolutely. And I think it is. We have to look at, we're helping others. We're getting that question answered for someone else. And I look at it as you could potentially help the next generation.
Absolutely.
By doing that.
Absolutely.
This has been a really great discussion. We have time for a couple more questions. So audience members, if you still have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will try to get to them. For our panelists, as we get ready to start wrapping up, but I'll go back to the chat. Let's see. It looks like it's a question. Is access to new drugs only available by enrolling in the trial?
No.
No. If it's on the market, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I think that was the question.
Right.
But as we wrap up, what I would love is if our panelists could go through and leave the audience with a couple words of wisdom as it pertains to clinical trials. What are your thoughts? What would you like our audience to think about when it comes to clinical trials?
You want anybody go first?
Spotlight's on you, Gwen.
All right, well, I'll take it away. So first of all, I know that we have a lot of Divine Nine members on today, and I know that we love one another and we lean on each other. When you decide to participate in clinical trials, you are caring about your community and your people. Get involved. This is what we do, right? We get involved. We sign up to do the work. Let's do the work to get our people involved in clinical trials so we can have treatments for ourselves, but also so we can have a voice. Because if we don't participate, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to leverage our voice? Because we don't participate. So we have a voice once we start to move and do the work, put the action into it, sign up for these clinical trials. I look forward to seeing some of you all over at Trinity when we get these clinical trials up and running.
You said it real well. When I think about it, as you said, member of Divine Nine, I always look at myself, as we say it, Sigma Gamma, I'm my sister's keeper. And I am my brother and I'm my sister's keeper. So that's what I look at when thinking about clinical trials, that what I'm getting myself involved in could help my brother or my sister. So, I mean, I can't even say anything more. It's just so important that our voices are heard and that we are, like you said, when we are consumers, we have to take our health seriously. And this is one of the ways that we can do it.
Okay, Roland.
Yeah, so I totally concur with what's been said. I want to leave with it's so important to participate in clinical trials, because I think one of the things it will do is going to heighten your awareness around whatever health issue that clinical trial is about. It's going to provide you with additional education around your health more broadly. But I think the biggest thing that I want to leave you with is, I don't want to leave you, I want to charge you with something.
Right.
What I want to say, I can't say it because we're being recorded. So I'm not going to say it. But I'm going to do it a different way.
That's just at the after party. Go ahead.
So,
Yeah,
okay, right. Then I'll tell you. I'll really say it at the after party. But one of the things I want to leave you with is that if you love yourself, nobody's going to take care of you like you. Nobody's going to take care of you like you. If you love yourself as much as you say you do, you will now start to participate in these clinical trials. After hearing these outstanding women give you this information in the way in which they gave it to you today, if you love yourself as much as you do, the next clinical trial that's appropriate for you, you will at least look at it and at least make a concerted attempt to see if you want to join it. The last thing is, I'm charging you with being accountable for yourself and someone else. So when these clinical trials come up, then if you know someone that's in one, you should be accountable for them and to them. But what I mean by accountability is that if they have questions they need answered, you can help them get them questions answered, or point them to somebody who can get them answered. I go back to this African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I also want to change it to it takes a village to get our butt in the clinical trial. I'm not gonna say what I really wanted to say
We
because we
know
being
what you
recorded.
wanted to say.
No, that ain't even really what I wanted to say, but I'm gonna leave it there and say that my call to action is to be accountable to one another. Let's move forward and get in these clinical trials, because we've been talking very myopic about the individual level, but there's some macro level things that can occur once we get in these levels. We can start, and I think somebody said, Lloyd said this in the chat, we can start to change health policies that
Right.
are for us, right? We can get reimbursements back that are for us, right? When we start doing these things, but we don't have an evidence base now. So the charge is for you to be accountable, have education, go look into clinical trials.
Be
And
paradigm shifters.
one thing,
Yeah.
and
take what we learned tonight and spread it out. What you heard
Yes.
tonight, don't let it fall on deaf ears.
Please.
Don't let the conversation end here. Take it out to when you go get your haircut on Saturday, when you go get your weave tightened or your color done, talk
and
about
be
what we
the
talked about.
champion of good information.
Right.
Yes, please.
Right. Right.
Epidemiologist with knowledge.
And don't be going drinking no tequila and making up nothing.
That's right.
That's what we'll do. We will do it. So don't do it, please.
Listen, I love you all. Thank you for showing up today to get informed. We feel blessed to have had this opportunity to spend this time with you today.
Yeah.
Continue to love on each other and take good care of yourselves.
And I want to, first of all, say thank you to the panelists. You answered my call as a friend. Yes, I know you are all very distinguished medical professionals, but it's nothing like your friend answering your call to come do a panel on a topic that is so important. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank everybody who signed up, who came, got some good information today. We appreciate you. Before we close out the session, we do have someone else. We have Shartae on the phone. She's one of our super surprise guest panelists, and she's just going to share a little bit of information about some work that she's doing as it pertains to clinical trials. So we're going to give her a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and have our vice president do a closing for you.
Thank you, Kim. Let me just say how privileged I am to be a part of this conversation with people who are speaking the facts and keeping it real. So it's entertaining, but also the information is so important and relevant. So I am the program manager for the Institute for Translational Medicine at Rush. And then I also serve as the grassroots recruitment specialist for the U.S. Coroner Study for the Chicagoland area. Dr. Odom, I will be reaching out to you because a part of the ITM Advocate Aurora is a part of the Institute for Translational Medicine. So it's inclusive of the University of Chicago, Rush University, North Shore, Advocate, and IIT. But also the others who are on this panel. It has been very refreshing to reaffirm everything, the work that I have been doing along the way. So just in a few moments, I wanted to just touch base of the things that I'm working on. So the people who were on the panel serve in a capacity of research. My role is more from an administrative perspective of how can we weave in community members within all aspects of the institution. So perhaps serving on the IRB, perhaps being a part of a community advisory board that is connected with a research project, perhaps taking a certification course that comes out of UIC that will help prepare our communities for when we are approached to be a part of a study, not only from a perspective as a participant, but also maybe even a co-PI, principal investigator. So I just wanted to give this audience the opportunity to know that there's participation, but then there's also an opportunity to serve on boards. And most of the boards are paid as well. So the incentive of it all, but then your lived experience is such a value for investigators that we need to have more people at the table so that we can continue to have these conversations, that it's not foreign for when the audience or the investigator is not a reflection of the communities on the south and west sides of Chicago. So thank you to Kim and to April for allowing me this opportunity. I'm standing instead of Dr. Dorian Miller, who's at the University of Chicago, but who is also a part of the ITM. And so my email will be attached to the follow-up information that will be circulated to this team, to this group, the audience thereafter. And if you have a question about how you can either participate on a board, including the IRB, and I just learned about one the other day about the institutional animal care, which they're, people of color love their pets as well. So how can we, and that's not even the connection to it, but the part of the connection to it is that how can we be present at all of these boards so that our communities are at the table, our voices are at the table in every aspect of them, not just participation, but for the decision makers. And then earlier today, when someone talked about the IRB, that they were gangsters and the gatekeepers. Well, we we need to be at all of the tables and our voices. So I'm very privileged and thankful for being a part of this conversation. And there are some resources that I've provided. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email, and I will definitely follow up with you all. So thank you.
Shartae, can I just say thank you so much for saying that? Yes, please get on these boards, guys. We need representation. We need, like she said, we need a seat at the table. And y'all know what? We need to stop asking for seats at the table and start creating our own table. How about doing our own clinical trials and leading them? Let's go.
And then there's that.
And we are going to make sure that everybody who signed up for the event tonight, we will be sending a follow-up email that will contain some additional materials if you care to look through them. So just be on the lookout for that post-meeting.
Thank you.
All right. I would like to turn it, again, I would like to say thank you. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for lending an ear tonight to hear some valuable information. I would now like to pass it to our Vice President, and she is going to bring it on home for us.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of Target 2, Women's Healthcare and Wellness Chairman Gwen Butler and Larice Davis, Target 3, Building Your Economic Legacy, Chairman Debbie Williams and Lakeisha Dancy, Target 1, HBCU for Life, a Call to Action Chairman Gabrielle Henley and Marissa Baldwin Woodhouse, and the entire committee. We want to thank all of our participants for joining us this evening for the second part of a two-part panel discussion on the COVID-19 vaccine and clinical trials. Special thanks to our moderator, Member Kimberly Brown, our panelists, Dr. Roland J. Thorpe Jr., Dr. Gwendolyn Oglesby Odom, and Alyssa Stevens, and also Shartae Robinson for sharing a wealth of information and for sharing the involvement of minority populations during clinical trials. From tonight's discussion, it is our hope that everyone is able to make their voice and health count. We truly appreciate your continuous support of Chi Omega Omega Chapter and the Imani Pearls Community Development Foundation programs. For more information on future programs and events, please email our chairman at COO women's health and wellness@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at chiomegaomega.org. Thanks so much for this wonderful discussion. I truly learned a lot. And I hope you have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And please don't forget to fill out the exit survey. We did put it in the chat. We thank you. We are thinking about a part 2. I think you may gangster us into having a part 2 after some of the comments that I've seen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you at the next event. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.